Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to a brand new edition of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show as you do each and every week. Fun one planned for you today as we have a lot to get to. Drake men's basketball tips off tonight at Southern Illinois. We'll preview that game and preview what's at stake just from a morale standpoint for this Bulldogs basketball team. And then, of course, on Wednesdays, we're trying to stay consistent with giving you the Missouri Valley Conference updated standings. So we will go through both the men and women's side of that. And then most importantly, we will sit down with Drake women's basketball head coach Allison Pohlman, who we were trying to get on during Christmas, and I actually made the mistake. So sent the email to the wrong person, and that was on me. Hand up accountability, my fault. But we were able to get her on today. So Coach Allison Pohlman will join us for the majority of the show and go through just a tough road stretch last week, what the team learned from that, what the team has continued to develop into here in the Valley Conference portion of their schedule, and then what's ahead with Bradley, a huge game Friday night. So we will go through all that and much more with Pohlman. But before we do any of that, be sure to click that subscribe button, give us a like, comment, and rate wherever you are viewing or listening to today's show. And then, of course, follow us all over social media. At Media Row Pod is where you can catch us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Twitter, of course, where we spend most of our time going through just our clips of the show and then spending most of the time with great debates and conversations with you, the listener, on Twitter. So don't want to miss any of that. And then, of course, go and support local with Kelly's Little Nipper at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, a wonderful place to really, this week, you should be there at least 3 times. For Wednesday night, watch the Drake game over at Kelly's Little Nipper. Friday night, you should be going there either to tailgate or to, celebrate hopefully a Drake women's basketball victory. On Friday night, go over to Kelly's Little Nipper. And then this weekend, all the NFL games, all the great college basketball games. Come on, you kidding me? There's going to be no other place that is going to have as good of food, as great of service, and as many options to drink as you want. So go over to Kelly's Little Nipper, 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines, proud sponsor of the Media Row podcast. So let's start off today's show by previewing this Drake versus SIU game. Again, coming off of what was a real disappointing outing last week. Probably the worst stretch we've seen from this Drake Bulldogs team. And now there's been a lot of issues and struggling moments with this first year under Henderson and throughout this regular season. That 2-game stretch where they lost to Robert Morris and SIUE at home, very disappointing. But it was so early in the season, I, of course, was on the side of let's see how this team adjusts. Last week, we got through all of this on Monday, so I'm not going to reiterate it, but very telling. And so now it's on Drake to prove me and the fans wrong about being scared and nervous of how this team responds to adversity. The mental aspect of this game has been a real struggle for this Drake Bulldogs team. And on the floor as well. Just when they get punched in the mouth, if a team comes out hot, it's a real difficult task for this Drake team to fight back. And so it's back to the same old story of just now, these next 2 games. SIU on tonight, on Wednesday, and then you have UIC, both games on the road on Saturday. 2 teams that are good, they're decent, but you should beat. You should beat if you're Drake. And so it's back to that same old story of just a must-win for morale. Where, sure, these games aren't going to make fans, if you go 2-0, you aren't going to make fans go, ho, watch out Bradley, watch out Murray State, here come the Bulldogs. No, you're still very nervous about those higher tier Valley teams. What these 2 wins will do for you is go, okay, now we have kind of solidified our spot in the Valley. We're not title contenders in the regular season. Again, I've been telling people this is all just based on what we've seen. Where, of course, can Drake go on a run and end up winning the Valley, as right now they're projected like an 8 seed, so playing on Thursday. Sure. Could they go on that run? Absolutely. That's why we love March, because of crazy stuff that happens like that are unexpected. That would be shocking. That'd be shocking right now from just what we've seen. Is it possible? Yes, of course. But yeah, it would put Drake, it would kind of solidify them as that scrappy team that can compete, can make those top tier teams work for it. But as of right now, you don't have much confidence of them being in that title contender spot whatsoever. So that's why what you'd get going 2-0 against UIC and SIU. SIU, though, same exact story as Drake. They're part of 4 teams tied right now with a 2-4 conference record. The difference is the Bulldogs have been on a downslide. Have lost 2 of their last 3. SIU, they've won 2 of their last 3. Thing that scares a lot of Bulldog fans, again, is just how this team, when things go wrong, it can snowball pretty fast. So when you've lost 2 of your last 3, we've seen it before of, oh, here comes a 3rd loss. So really trying to make sure that doesn't happen. But SIU, they have been the poster child for that scrappy team. Scrappy, scary team. They beat Belmont 68-67. And then they only lost to Bradley and Murray State by a combined 7 points. Drake got blown out by both of those teams. Murray State, 9 points. I'll actually step back. That wasn't a blowout. That's a loss. I mean, Murray State handled that game. It could have easily been a blowout. The Bradley game was a blowout. But SIU, a team lost by a combined 7 points. They can compete with anyone. Scrappy team that is going to cause headaches for really anyone, and especially this Drake team up front. They have a great head coach, 2nd year for Scott Nagy, 14th in Division I. Career wins. And you just look at this roster of SIU. I mean, this is a team, like every team in the Valley, lost so much in the offseason. They lost 4 scorers, their top 4 scorers last season. And then you have a couple of newcomers that have really started to step up. Biggest one is Quell Ron House, who leads the team in points per game right now with about 13 points per game. Is a strong shooter, can create his own shot. The player that I think a lot of Saluki fans had high hopes for, that just isn't getting over that hump, isn't getting to that consistency they would want to see, is Isaiah Stafford, who came from Valpo. He had missed last season with an ACL injury. He averaged, though, 17 points per game in the Missouri Valley 2 years ago. He's versatile, can play both the point guard, can be that facilitator, as well as just the scorer with the shooting guard position. And in our preseason notes, I made this huge packet about, in late October, where I just had this huge packet of just going through notes of these teams. And I've been adding to it as the season goes. And I had Stafford down there, talking about how he's versatile, tremendous shooter. We're really seeing the inconsistency bug hit Stafford pretty hard. He's only averaging 7.3 points per game and 20% from beyond the arc. So Drake really just has to find a way to slow down House and slow down his ability to control the game from the Salukis' end. And so you would expect Jalen Quinn to go on him. And again, I want to see Quinn just show up with that intensity that he had in that second half of Evansville. I've said this now for 3 weeks. I think that was the best defensive stretch by Quinn all season long. And it turned around a game. And it changed the kind of face of that defense of Drake. I want to see them come out with that again. We haven't seen it. And so he'll be tested around the perimeter. It's going to be a very difficult game. These just feel like must-win games. Morale-wise, for solidifying kind of your position in the Valley so that you're making sure you're not a bottom-tier team, is you just really, really want to win these next two. You don't want to even go 1-1. I know 1-1 at this point you'll take just because of what we've seen from Drake, but you go 2-0. Not saying it turns around the season, but it'd just be really nice to get back above 500 in the win column, especially with next week, the huge test against Murray State. Murray State's unbelievable, and they're coming to Des Moines. And we know what happened the last time those two teams played. So Drake, SIU, two teams at 8 and 9. One team is going to get back to 500. One team is going to fall 2 games behind. It will all be decided tonight. Tip-off at 7 o'clock on ESPN+. Of course, follow along at Media Row Pod on Twitter for live game updates. All right, let's jump into our Wednesday Valley standings update. Starting with the men, you have Murray State officially separating themselves from the group. Only one left unbeaten. Remember last week when we're going through the standings talking about, oh my God, so much is going to be shown and represented to us because you have UNI taking on Murray State. You have UNI taking on Belmont. You have Belmont taking on Drake. So much is happening in the Valley in like a 48-hour period. And what really got shown was that Murray State is separate. Murray State is a different breed. Ryan Miller, first-year head coach, has done a tremendous job. So many great players on that team. Dahmen is incredible. You have just guys that can stretch the floor, can beat you in multiple ways, can shoot the ball with any team, can pound the rock with any team, and are tremendous defensively as well. The most balanced and most dominant team in the Valley, and it shows. They were the only team left unbeaten, 7-0 in the Valley right now. And then you have 4 teams that can truly battle for that title spot. Right now, I have a lot of confidence in Murray State running the table. Maybe dropping a game or 2, but I think that they're right now easily in that front seat to go through St. Louis and win the entire tournament. But you have a couple of teams, 4 teams that can truly battle. Belmont and Bradley right now sit with a 5-2 record. Belmont, we saw what that offense can do live in person on Saturday. And then for Bradley, it's just a credit to Brian Wardle and his coaching staff for coming into this season. Bradley was a young team, a lot of freshmen, a lot of new faces. They lost 78% of their scoring from a year ago. And Wardle told us all what he was going to do, and he did it. He was like, I'm going to figure out this team by Christmas. Christmas break came around, and we were like, oh my God, have you seen Bradley? A team that started off poorly is now right there in the top 3 in the Valley. 5-2 record for the Bruins and the Braves. And they have UNI and Illinois, not Indiana. Indiana State's way at the bottom. You have UNI and Illinois State sitting at a 4-2 record. 2 teams, man, very similar, where I think UNI you have a lot more confidence in right now being able to compete just after what we saw from last week, where that defense is legit. It's just you came across a really tough stretch where you had to take on Bradley, you had to take on Belmont in 1 week, and that's a tough stretch for any team. And I still have so much faith in Jacobson. That's a coach very much so, I know on a different level, Valley and national titles are two completely different things. But it has like a Bill Self type feel where you're like, man, no matter what, I trust the dude. I feel like that dude's going to put together a strong squad, and by March, they're going to have a run or an opportunity, at least be competitive. And UNI this year, there's no slow start. This is a team that has really demanded a lot from their opponents, especially with that defensive intensity. So I have a lot of confidence in the Panthers moving forward. Illinois State's starting to scare me. My preseason pick to win the Valley and the Redbirds are starting to scare me. They dropped some really bad ones. They lost to UIC, and then they lose a second straight to Valpo, who, credit to Valpo, team that lost 100% of their scoring. This is a team that is making everyone work for it. So Valpo's loss, record-wise, you see that and you go, ugh, you lost to Valpo? You watch Valpo, that's a dangerous team. That's a team that on any given day could really compete with some really talented teams. But even regardless of the credit to Valpo, Redbirds just look off. They really do. And now they should have an easy win against a one-win Valley team in Indiana State. But now it's getting to the point after losing to UIC and to Valpo back-to-back games, you get concerned. You get worried. So those are your top standings for the Missouri Valley Conference. Of course, you have Drake in that mix of a bunch of teams right now, 4 other teams tied with a 2-4 conference record, and then Evansville and Indiana State towards the bottom. All right, before we get to Coach Pohlman, we are going to touch on this Missouri Valley Conference women's standings, where you have 2 top dogs going head-to-head, Belmont and Murray State, a combined 11-0 in the Valley right now. Those were the 2 teams Drake just fell to. Belmont game felt a lot different than the Murray State game. Murray State is just so versatile, can have so many different scores on one possession. And Belmont, just that defense is right there in your pocket for 40 minutes. So both teams really playing some great basketball here early in the Valley season. You have UNI, who dropped 2 in a row. They're 4-2 right now. And it's just a huge battle Friday night. Sets up for an awesome atmosphere Friday night at the Knapp Center, because you have Bradley and Drake, 2 teams sitting right now with a 3-2 conference record. Who is going to be able to get out of that kind of middle of the pack tie right now? Because you have Belmont, Murray State right now. They're the king of the hill. UNI is right there. They're marching up there. Drake has shown signs of how they could be contenders. Bradley as well. Someone has to lose, though. Something has to give Friday night. So that's kind of your top of the standings updates for the women's team. But let's get some better insight by someone who knows the Valley, knows this Drake team better than anyone else. And that's the Drake women's basketball head coach, Allison Pohlman. Came off of a tough road stretch where I've talked to some coaches, like Darren DeVries, I remember a few years ago, saying like, if they ever had a tough stretch, his main goal was to just not sleep in the office. He wanted to sleep at home to try and make sure he was balancing it out. How do you do it?
Yeah. I think everybody has a different strategy on really trying to, to reflect, but to also, come back at things with a clear mind, and so we have, our conference road swings where we play on like a Thursday, Saturday, or a Friday, Sunday. You get amnesia really fast after that first game, and then you hit the second game, and then you got a few more days to prep. So, like balancing, I don't know, I think we all figure out a way to just like stand on our heads, to be honest. It's just, because you throw in all of the other things that go along with this amazing opportunity to be involved in college coaching, and, the recruiting side of things, and, and just the amazing fan support, and being able to, connect with a lot of our the people that are really, deeply involved with our program. So I think the responsibilities, are what feels like endless, but I think it's just really trying to prioritize. And right now, the biggest focus has to be our team. And so we've spent a lot of time together. We still don't have classes for 2 weeks. So it just gives us the opportunity really to really dive in and to connect and be able to have a lot of conversation with each individual. So I don't know if it's necessarily called balance. I think it's called, probably like a rat race or who knows what, but I think it's a great opportunity to be able to have, instead of looking at it as a job, I think it's an opportunity for, just to be involved in the greatest institution, I think, at Drake University, and being able to, to lead our women and to watch them continue to grow, both as people, but also as basketball players.
Do you think part of the struggles on Sunday against Murray State, outside of Murray State just being a really talented and good team, do you think part of that was, kind of the first time this year you guys had to play Friday, hit the road, play Sunday again? Does that add a little bit to a team that is still new in the sense of figuring itself out?
You talk about both a Belmont team and a Murray State team who are, I would call, relatively veteran. It's a little different when you're going on the road and you have, 4 seniors and a crop of juniors. And, this is not an excuse by any stretch. This is just the lot that we have. We have 8 underclassmen, and 5 upperclassmen. And of those upperclassmen, a few of them, haven't also been exposed to doing this, as much as, like our coaching staff has been. But, I would just attribute it to I think mostly myself just understanding our team and understanding kind of, what it does, what we need to focus on, probably just a little bit more so necessarily while we're on the road playing really back-to-back quality, fantastic opponents in our conference. And so I know we'll do a lot of things differently the next time that we have this sort of scenario. But I think a little bit of it, you got to see, kind of our lack of experience shine through just a little bit. So you step into those hostile environments, man, you got to be ready to go and ready to compete. And we weren't quite ready to go on Sunday. And that's 100% on our coaches and myself.
I know there's no such thing as like a moral victory, but man, it feels pretty close to one against Belmont, where you have this team that is young and that didn't get off to a fast start this year, but then go up against one of the Valley's best, like you mentioned, a veteran team, and really just a couple of possessions go your guys' way, and that game's totally different. I was telling people on Monday's show, the 9-point differential was not the true story. The box score didn't tell the true game.
Yeah, it didn't feel watching it, the amount of times that, we've watched it, I think, going into 2:44, we were down 3 and had the basketball. And so, those are when those possessions really start to matter. Those are when, and this is a lot of what we're talking with our team about really those quality scores and stops and our mentality and, what we're thinking in those times, and just, kind of having that unstoppable mindset of, this is go time. And so even if we don't happen to get a score, we got to get a stop, and then we got to figure out a way to get a score. And, but, I felt really, really good, in the Belmont game, even at halftime, talking to our team, and being able to say, guys, we really have not played that great. We had the turnover bug for the most part that entire game. And, once again, no excuses there. We needed to take care of the basketball a lot better than what we did to really put ourselves in a position to actually win that game, because I do think it could have been a strong possibility. But we came out, I thought, even in the third quarter, and I thought we battled. I thought we did, some really fantastic things. And that's what we're really looking to build on. Kind of want to, maybe skip over a little bit of what we'll take away from Murray State, what we need to take away. But this is a competitive team. This is a team that is continuing to get better.
Now, you mentioned just having a younger roster, but people forget that you lost Crawford, you lost Monahan before the season even began. So how much did you have to adjust when you lose players like that? And are you seeing it having an effect this season on your team?
I think anytime that you have injuries on your team, it definitely it directly affects you. And we could all say that at this given moment that both Miley and Maya would be averaging, 25, 12 assists and 10 rebounds each. I mean, there are triple double. There's two triple doubles sitting on the bench, but realistically, I think what both of them really will add to our team is that true point guard sense of things. We had so much success, with Katie at the point and Ava being able to play a lot more two guard, or just be, one of we kind of run a system where we have multiple point guards in the game at the same time. But, I would say that, it's put a lot more on Ava's shoulders. Grace Knutson, who's not played point guard much, has taken reps at the point guard. We've thrown Anna Becker into bringing the basketball up a number of times. Same thing with Brooklyn Daly. And so it is different. And I do think, every single time that you experience these injuries, it changes your team. It changes the dynamic. And whether they're out for a game or a season or 10 games, you have to adjust. And that's what our players are doing. And we're gaining experience in those situations. But Justin, I tell you what, I'll be really excited when we're able to put their names in the book, to be able to watch their Drake careers really unfold.
Crawford, to me, watching from a distance, she's going to be an assistant coach for you, it feels like. I mean, she is a sideline coach. I see her with the clipboard, getting the players involved, or getting them hyped up, I should say. Is that a player that you look at and you kind of have that instinct of they could be a coach one day?
Yeah, well, she actually, I mean, she's a coach's kid, so
that
her
makes
dad,
sense.
yeah, her dad coaches at Iowa State on the men's staff, and I think Maya has always had, probably the want to coach. But I think what she does is, but I would say this about everybody on our team. Everybody respects what other people have to say. And Maya on the sidelines, though, is very, very animated. And, it's funny. She and I we have this, every once in a while, we got warned one game, and most of it was because she was jumping off the bench and really she was on the floor. And then another time that we had referees tell us that we needed to sit down, and the first person that I looked at was Maya, and I was like, could you get us under control? And so no, but she's a ball of energy, and that's the same tenacity and like all of that she plays with. And so that's where those competitive edgy sort of players, it'll be fun to, like I said, it'll be fun to watch her career. But there are so many lessons that you are forced to learn as you are sidelined. And I'm sure Miley and Maya will have a lot. They have fantastic feedback for their team right now because they're watching it and they get to see it from a different lens, but then stepping into next year when they're on the floor and someone else might be saying something to them, I'm really, really excited to watch how they respond and how they take this year and really learn from it.
And it seems like, these past few years, Drake fans, the team, the coaches, it was very fortunate to have players like Katie Dennebeer who could just kind of take over at any point in a game. Now, with her gone, it does have to adjust this roster a little bit, play style a little bit. But are you noticing the importance of a great depth and great role players filling in those gaps? Are you noticing that being a bigger key to Drake's success for this team in particular?
I think so. I do agree with you, and I think what's been really fantastic, kind of as you watched our team, we say, because we have 11 available players to be able to play on any given night, it could be any of those 11. And so when we last year spent a lot of time, everyone standing around and watching Katie make a play or get the ball to her at the end of the shot clock, and she kind of did her thing, and whether she got people involved or whether she scored herself, a lot of times she put the ball in the hole. And so now it's just, we have a lot of opportunities. And I think, the great thing about that is you quickly realize as a player, like your skill set and some of those things that might need to be enhanced. So we're putting these women in positions, to have success. But I think we're also learning as we're doing those things. And this is it's really going to pay off for us as the season continues, but even more so in our future.
It just feels like balance is huge for this team more than the previous few teams we've seen because you guys are outscoring your opponents. I mean, against Murray State and Belmont, I think you guys had 30 plus bench points. So it's
Right.
just it's becoming glaring how important those role players are and just how well they're adjusting into Valley play as well.
Well, I think what's really special about that is, anytime I feel like I pop on the radio afterwards or talk about our team, we're talking about, how Brooklyn Daly goes 6 for 8 from the field, how Maggie Taylor has 6 assists, how, Grace Knutson gives us a huge boost off the bench, how, Abby Alsma goes off for 25, so you have a lot of really different things and different players who you're constantly able to praise as to what they're adding to the game. And every game it's different.
And it was awesome to see Brooklyn Daly come out with that career high, especially after dealing with a little bit of an injury. Just how cool was it from a coach's perspective to see her bounce back like that?
Well, I think what I think has been so amazing about Brooklyn's year this year is really I would say on it, like she's really embodied and like I guess just her voice has shown through, and I think that she's been much more vocal. And that could just be because she's a junior or she feels like it's necessary, but she's also playing extremely well. Prior to her getting injured, she had back-to-back games where, she had scored in double digits, gave us a huge boost off the bench, was doing a lot of really positive things. And then, she tweaks an ankle, and unfortunately we weren't real sure what had happened because if you and everyone else and all of these, I got so many text messages about Brooklyn because I think they replayed it, must have been a number of times.
Yeah.
But she is one tough cookie, I'll tell you that much. And our medical staff is fantastic, and we're able to get her back. And I thought she didn't drop off a bit headed into the Belmont game. I thought she did the same things that she was doing prior to the injury. And so, it's becoming almost that where we're asking a little bit of consistency from her. We're asking for a little bit more, this is how you're able to produce. And now can we rely on you to be able to do that?
I was watching the Belmont game, and Belmont's so physical defensively. Like they're going to get up in your face. And the one person that they would try to do that to would be Brooklyn. And the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, that's the one person that's going to thrive the most. Like she loves to get in the paint. She loved diving on the floor. Great, tremendous rebounder. Just how important was that just going into that game against Belmont to have her have great success with how physical Belmont is?
Yeah. Well, and I think what Brooklyn's able to do is she is a physical player, but I think to be able to utilize other people's physicality against them. And so, in those situations, what Brooklyn does is she's a phenomenal screener and she's a really, really good passer. And so for her to be able to figure out those things, and that's what I think about, her being a junior and having the experience that she's had up to this point. So watching her in that space has been good. And then, sometimes I'm just not quite sure, if she's gotten football confused with basketball, but sometimes, but we keep it on track. And I candidly only say that because I know, she grew up in a household where she played a lot of football. I mean, she has an older brother who plays football, played with her, her parents are wonderful supporters and had her involved in a lot of sports, but no, Brooklyn's been, one of those, shining lights. It's been really fun to be able to watch, her minutes continue to increase, and then back to really just that consistency of her efforts and what she's been able to add to our team.
I want to get nerdy for a little bit here with a few of the play styles of some of the players. And I want to start with Grace Knutson, who started the year in the starting lineup and now is back on the bench. Is that just having, a starter to be able to come off the bench to kind of help out Abby Alsma as kind of the two top players that can really create their own shots? Is that an adjustment you made just to help with that from the bench?
Well, one of the things we made, two of those same changes that we made at the same time were Grace Knutson and also Maggie Taylor, with kind of how we started. And so I think, it's a real shot in the arm, where teams have to prepare for, two new players coming off the bench. I think, this was back in the era of when I coached alongside Jenny. I think I want to say maybe it was either 3 or 4 years where, we had the sixth player of the year. So it was one of those situations where you were able to bring somebody off the bench who really gave you a boost, where it was able to, kind of change, whether it was the momentum of the game, change the landscape, do a few different things. And, and I think our coaches, as far as, our starting lineup that we currently have now is a lot more of just being able to match up the way we want to match up defensively. And then also that boost off the bench is always really intriguing to be able to have. So those are a little bit of like kind of the justifications for that thought process, because, Brooklyn Daly's in that same exact sort of, I think, window of, as she comes off the bench, to be able to give one of her teammates a quick breather too. She's been another really nice, consistent, performer that we're able to exchange, and really not drop off.
And then Carlson going into the starting lineup too. She seems like a player. I mean, when she even wasn't getting a whole lot of minutes, had a lot of energy. Does she get put in that starting lineup as kind of a morale booster? She also has tremendous skills, of course, but is that another key factor that made you want to put her in that starting lineup?
Well, it's not a surprise. Lexi's one of our best communicators on our team. And so, being able to, both teams, as it's kind of a chess match, the first, 3 to 5 minutes, and figuring out what other teams are going to try and, exploit. And, having someone who really can, communicate at a high level, I think is always really, really beneficial. And so that's what I think Lexi brings. But like, don't make any questions about it. Lexi's also had games where she's stepped up and she's knocked down shots. And so she and Abby on the floor, I think, are really able to stretch things because they both shoot it so very, very well. And, for a number of teams, just seeing how they match up and stuff, has been, it's been kind of fun to be able to mess with a little bit, but Lexi's definitely earned it. I mean, she's very, very consistent practice player. I think that her consistency with, shooting the ball in games is going to come. And as her confidence just continues to rise, I think you're going to watch her make a lot more shots of the ones that she's taking.
And then last, player specific question I have for you is with Anna Becker, who, I feel like these last 3 weeks has arguably been your best post player. The way she's able to get the ball in the post, and she doesn't panic. She doesn't dribble where it gets swatted away. Like, she looks like a true post player. Is that something you saw from her when recruiting, or is that something you're implementing and trying to build her skill set too?
Yeah, I think one of the things, as all of our coaches watched Anna through the recruiting process was, we just felt like she was just a perfect fit for Drake. She's got that versatility piece, but she's got so much wiggle, in her game, kind of like she's just elusive a little bit. She definitely has to get a little stronger in finishing around the rim. Sometimes she does second guess herself. Sometimes I think she plays extremely unselfish, where she's trying to dump past the ball and she should just be going up and getting her team 2 points. But it's definitely something we saw in the recruiting process, and I think Anna stepping into really a conference season, she blew onto the scene, and, the first couple weeks, just played basketball. And I thought of their non-conference schedule. She played free. She did a lot of really great things. She got to the free throw line a ton. And then I think this thing happens where their brains turn on, and they just start over processing and overthinking a little bit. And every player goes through this, whether it's, where coaches are trying to, you're trying to coach them, but you don't want to, dampen down anything that they're doing.
Yeah.
You still want them to be able to play free. So for a window in there, I thought Anna played just a little bit like protected, and I think we're really finally getting back to the Anna who's playing a little bit more free, and that's happened in conference play. I think she's got that wiggle in there. I do think she's able to pass extremely well, and she does a nice job of scoring on the interior. One of the things she hasn't necessarily shown, now she's made a couple threes in a couple games. Now she's a very good 3-point shooter. She just hasn't taken a ton of them in games. So we've got to get her a little bit more accustomed to go ahead and trail and knock those threes down, because then she becomes even more difficult to guard.
And so Drake is back home, of course, this week against Bradley. Just what have you seen on film early on with this Braves team, and what challenges do they show against you guys?
Well, Kate Popovich-Goss has done a phenomenal job of just the improvement by year by year by year by year, and the consistency of the player that she's had there. So it makes a huge difference when people stick around. I'm telling you, because you learn a system, you believe in a culture, you believe in your teammates and stuff, and I think that that's what she's been able to do. They start a 4-guard lineup, and everybody can shoot, and so we will have our hands full with on-ball screen and dribble handoff coverages, very similar to Murray State. So, but I know you and I talked about this before, but it's got to be like back in the lab, and we've got to figure out a way to be able to understand coverages a little bit better than what we did over the weekend. But, I do think we have one of the things that Drake is always known for is our pace, and we will continue that, whether it's in the full court and half court. And we've got to get that pumping just a little bit more. And I'm looking forward to, a fantastic contest, another fantastic opportunity, in the Knapp Center on Friday night to play a Bradley team. I think that sits almost pretty much the exact same record that we have.
Well, thank you again so much for doing this for me, Allison. Means so much to me that you're able to find time in your busy schedule to do this for me. So seriously, thank you so much.
Well, the thank yous, yeah, you can keep bringing them, but the fact that you got Drake and a D-Dog on your back wall, I will always say yes, Justin, that's for sure.
Remind me if I may be mistaken, aren't you a Seahawks fan too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was a big Russell Wilson fan when he was there, but yes.
Yeah.
But yes, Seahawks fan indeed.
What do you think of this weekend then? Are you going to be, do you get a little bit of free time to watch that playoff game Saturday night?
The likelihood is probably no, but I'll check the scores.
Well, I'll do all the worrying then for you. I'll be a nervous wreck for you on Saturday.
I love it.
But thank you again so much. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch up on Friday after the game.
That sounds great. Thanks again, Justin. Go Bulldogs.
Huge thank you to Allison Pohlman for hopping on the show. But before we wrap up today's show, Cyclone fans, I'm sorry, but we got to talk about last night. I mean, like, the best way to put it is I'm not shocked this happened. I am surprised. There's a difference. Like, shock to me is Evansville going on to win the Missouri Valley Conference regular season. Surprise is, I thought X, Y, and Z was going to happen, but it's Bill Self. It's Kansas. It's Allen Fieldhouse. Iowa State hasn't beat Kansas in Kansas since 2017. Like, no, I'm not shocked. Disappointed is a good word. Watching that game, you're going in expecting high rivalry, emotions, great intensity, and one team showed up with that, and that was the home team, and that was the Jayhawks. Iowa State looked lost in that first half. Some poor shots, by Tamin Lipsey. I love Tamin Lipsey. I've been fortunate enough to interview him a couple of times. If you're a coach, that is the leader you want on your team. But you could tell he was trying to get something started for Iowa State when they were down. But sometimes rushed and sloppy. And it doesn't all just fall on Tamin Lipsey. It's on everyone. Jefferson had some odd decisions passing the ball. He's a really good passer. I mean, just a dynamic playmaker is Jefferson, a potential All-American this season. But last night, my goodness, he had like a home run pass that fell in between three Jayhawks as he was trying to get to Torre running down the court. And even Jay Billis was like, did he not see the white jerseys? Just overall sloppy basketball, uninspired basketball, where they came in and just got beat at their own game. And I think a lot of people were quick to judge this Jayhawk team, which I get. You see the 11-5 record, the 1-2 conference record, you're unranked. Kansas hasn't beat a top 2 team as an unranked team since 1989. I get the concerns, the question marks surrounding this team. But one thing you never question is Bill Self's ability to coach up a team, make adjustments, especially at home. Bill Self has over 300 wins and under 20 losses. You know how crazy that is? That's just pure dominance. And that's what they did against Iowa State. They came out with way more intensity from the tip, and the ball movement offensively was impeccable. They broke down the nation's best defense and made them look incompetent on that side of the ball. Iowa State hurt themselves a lot. It wasn't all just Kansas dominating. Iowa State really struggled too. They just didn't come out with the right intensity. But you have to give a little rope to Bill Self. And I wasn't as quick to judge Kansas because of, a future NBA number 1 draft pick in Peterson has been dealing with limited minutes with this on and off injury issue. So yeah, when your star player is going through what he's going through, Bill Self, you're going to be tested and you're going to have ugly losses and kind of scratch your head moments if you're a Jayhawk fan. But it's still Bill Self. There was never once throughout these 3 months into the regular season where I'm sitting there going, maybe it's time for Bill Self to hang it up. Not once. That is one of the few coaches in this country I will trust no matter what. And Iowa State did not play well. The defensive miscues were awful, and those turnovers were unreal. Give credit, though, to Kansas with just the way they played. They beat Iowa State at their own game. Now, I'm not worried about Iowa State. Was that a bad performance, a bad outing? Absolutely. But you were kind of waiting for them to stub their toe. And that's not a knock on the team at all. It's just, we've seen it. I mean, there hasn't been a team that has gone undefeated in college basketball since 1975. So, yeah, no matter how good a team is, you expect them to stub their toe at least once. And then when you're playing in the Big 12 that has 3 teams in the top 10 and should be 4, BYU is just out of it at 11. Yeah, this is a gauntlet. And it doesn't even the teams that aren't ranked, UCF only has 2 losses, and that 2 Iowa State plays next Tuesday in a week. I'm not worried about Iowa State. And then also to Kansas's side, I wasn't shocked by what I saw. I was surprised. I thought this was going to be a rivalry game, high emotion, back and forth battle. I wasn't shocked that Kansas won in the fashion they did. It's Bill Self at home. Give me a break. This Jayhawk team, they played outstanding. Now, Iowa State hurt themselves a lot. I saw multiple people, I think Chris Williams put out this tweet and it was nailed it where, Kansas couldn't have asked for a better start and Iowa State couldn't have played worse to start the game. And in an atmosphere like Allen Fieldhouse, that's just disaster waiting. When you allow Kansas to shoot 52%, and then your stars in Lipsey and Jefferson and Momcilovic combined for like 5 of 28 in that first half. Now, Iowa State has an opportunity to get back at Kansas later this year at Hilton. It's going to be a gauntlet. The Big 12 is unreal. So no, I'm not worried. If I'm Iowa State, I'm not concerned. I'm disappointed, but that's a really good team and a team that's underestimated in the Kansas Jayhawks, in my opinion. So Iowa State now falls to 16-1. Their 16-game winning streak ends in Lawrence, and it's tough. I mean, if I'm an Iowa State fan, I'm sitting there going, Kansas was unranked. This was our opportunity to beat them at home. But you get another good opportunity to get back in that win column against Cincinnati, 8-8 team. On paper, you should win. It's a road game in the Big 12. I get that, but you're going to have this team inspired coming back. I put a lot of trust in TJ Otzelberger and this Iowa State team. I don't see them committing as many turnovers like they did tonight. The offensive miscues or defensive miscues, very odd. I mean, when was the last time we saw an Iowa State defense get carved up like that? It's probably been since Otz's first 2 years. I mean, this was always a strong defensive team. And one loss in Allen Fieldhouse, it sucks. It's disappointing. This team's going to be fine. You should still have Elite Eight and even Final Four, in my opinion, still in your mind if you're an Iowa State fan. So they'll take on Cincinnati Saturday, 1 o'clock. That one should be a fun one. It'll be exciting to see how this Iowa State team bounces back. But that will do it for our show. Thank you again so much to everyone who has tuned in. Thank you to Coach Pohlman for hopping on the show. Definitely won't be the last time we have her on. And now, since I won't mess up the email ever again, I can't believe I did that, but we will get Allison on multiple times throughout this season and possibly even during the off season, during our summer months where it's a little slower. We have a lot more interviews on this show. It'd be cool to just have her on and get more of the human side from the coaches here at Drake. But fun one tonight. Drake takes on Southern Illinois in what feels like a must-win morale game for the Bulldogs. That game tips off at 7 o'clock. We'll be following that one live. And then we will be live at the Knapp Center Friday to cover the Drake women against Bradley. And then also just more chaos in the sports world. We got NFL playoffs, the divisional round, and then we got more basketball to cover here in this beautiful state of Iowa. We will see you on Friday for a brand new edition of the Media Row podcast.